Hello, everybody.
Hiya.
Hello.
How are you doing? That was I Need a Forest
Why
Fire.
did you ask how are you doing on a one-way medium? They have no way of responding.
I'm concerned, regardless of whether they can reply or not.
Idiot.
That was I Need a Forest Fire by Bon Iver, although I'm told by my co-host Ned that that's not how you do pronounce it and that you say it Bon Iver.
Well, I might be wrong. I just always thought it was pronounced Bon Iver.
I think it's Bon Iver. Anyway, welcome to No Laughing Matter with me, Jaya Baldwin.
And me, Ned Sanders.
And our wonderful guest.
Bethan Smith, hello.
Yes, the topic for today, we're going to talk about female comedians. And Bethan is here because she is one of those.
I am
And
indeed. Last time I checked, yeah.
And also her comedy tends to revolve around that fact, and she makes jokes about being a woman, and she makes jokes which are relatable to women. And we wanted to start by asking Bethan just to speak a little bit about your experiences as a female comedian.
As a female comedian.
Or introduce yourself first. Tell us about yourself a bit if you want to.
Okay, so my name's Bethan, as has been said a couple of times before. I haven't been doing stand-up for that long, actually. I only started doing it when I came to this university as a postgrad back September, and I started in November. I've wanted to actually do comedy for quite a while before then, and I found that as a woman, I kind of got put off from doing it quite a lot. I grew up in, I'm not going to say a conservative family, but kind of like a bit of a, bit stiff upper lip kind of ones. And I remember even as a child, we'd be watching things like Mock the Week and things like that. And my mum would actually press the mute button whenever any of the female comedians would come on.
Oh my gosh.
Like literally, she'd just be like, yeah, they're just not funny. I'm sick of all these like women comedians talking about like all these kind of women-y subjects and they're just not funny. And I remember just silently thinking, I'd quite like to do that, but okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's awful. But it is a really prevalent, a scarily prevalent thing. Like, I know a bunch of people who have just said, oh yeah, women can't be funny, or, the female comedians aren't funny. And I think that there's a myriad of different reasons why people think that. I think it mostly comes down to just the fact that women aren't generally taken seriously in the media. I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I do think that there is definitely a problem. I think the real problem is that I don't get quite why, but there's an automatic shutdown whenever a woman comedian seems to come onto the stage. I think sometimes there's an automatic assumption that as a woman you're not going to talk about certain subjects, or you're going to say them in a certain way that's just not going to be funny, really. And I do think that's probably got a lot of media influence and a whole host of different reasons why, really.
Would you say people sort of brace themselves in a kind of, let's get ready for a rant type way?
Definitely. Let's get ready.
But what annoys me about that is the fact that so many male comedians come on and rant. They just rant about things. Like they say, oh my God, the way that public bathrooms are like, or oh my God, the way you get treated by people in services, or always just complaining about things. People go, oh yeah, I agree, it's a terrible thing. Why is it then when a woman comes on and does the same thing, it's not funny?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't agree.
Not funny. That is not my
automatically
opinion.
shut down, not funny.
I don't know. I just mean, why is it that there's a stigma around that?
I think it comes down to that kind of, angry lady feminist kind of, stereotype that you have, that a woman's going to go on the stage and she's just going to, as you said earlier, just, start ranting. So whereas when a guy does it, it's kind of like, oh, isn't this, banter and just talking about relatable things? Whereas when a woman talks about something that's specific to a woman, it's not relatable in the same way that when a man talks about something that's just about men, that's relatable, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I suppose it's that men are so used to having everything appeal to them and everything marketed towards them that suddenly a lot of people, I think, have this feeling of, oh, this isn't for me, and that makes me really angry.
Just over-entitled and generally over-privileged, basically. I mean, I think really the sad answer to our question of, why is it like that and all of this is really just because the world we live in isn't nice, fair or good.
No. What a depressing start to the show.
Come to No Laughing Matter for a bit of cheering up.
So much banter.
The world is terrible. We're all going to die.
I mean, the wage gap exists, sexism exists, it's disgusting and it's real, and we're all living it. And this is just another element of the world in which it's expressed.
Yeah, but do you think that maybe women talking about it and women who have a right to talking about it is a kind of way forward.
Oh,
and
definitely,
making light
definitely.
of it and joking about it, even though it's a terrible thing, to make it funny so that people are immediately drawn to it and want to talk about it.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's been a real kind of like breakthrough with a lot of comedians in the last couple of years. People like Sarah Pascoe and, you know, across the pond, Amy Schumer and things like that. And they're women that seem to actually draw attention to the fact that as a woman comedian, you know, there's this certain kind of like stereotype and association. And by drawing like attention to that fact, it's almost like you're kind of preempting any of the criticism that you get. And it's just, you know, just taking the mick and everything. And I think that works, yeah.
I would definitely agree. So we're going to take a brief break and leave you with some music. We'll kick off back on that point later. This is Middle Feet Bipolar Sunshine by DJ Snake.
It's just the feet means featuring.
I know, but it's fun to say feet. Right, here you go.
Okay.
DJ Snake.
Okay, let's go. Hello, we're back.
Hello.
Welcome back to No Laughing Matter, where we are now moving on to one of our games in inverted commas. It's called Oh, Isn't That Interesting?
It is indeed.
Certainly is.
The idea is we try and get an interesting fact and out-interest each other. I always say that, but it's actually not competitive at all. We never come up with a winner.
No, all of these games were designed with competitions in mind, and none of them were really competitive because we're all too nice. They're just fun. So, my fact of the day is that, believe it or not, hippos, when they are angry, they sweat red instead of normal.
Ooh.
What the hell?
Yes,
Blimey.
more animal facts for
Crazy.
anyone that's listening to these shows repeatedly.
That's really weird, though. Like, because I've seen, like, you know, if the fact that if a hippo is upset, if it's sad, you can visibly see because it's just covered in what looks like blood.
I suppose so. I mean, I've never seen the reality of this phenomenon myself, so it's difficult to tell whether that literally looks like they're bleeding everywhere or whether
It's
they're
like
just...
Carrie, like when she's floating through.
Oh, Lord, no.
Oh my god, just a carry hippo. Just like rumbling through the savannah.
hippo in like in the dress, the prom dress.
Yeah, oh,
covered in blood.
my. Oh,
But can you imagine if people did that?
Oh, good
oh
lord.
god.
It would-
What colour would you sweat if
Oh,
you
I
were
would-
frustrated?
I would definitely sweat something bright and fluorescent.
Just neon.
I would sweat
Glow in the
orange.
dark.
I would probably sweat tartan.
Ooh.
Tartan-coloured liquid.
Yeah.
I don't even want to know. So, what's your fact? One of you two.
You want to go, Bethan?
Okay, I will go first. I was Googling about this, and in a recent survey of people who work in like sex shops like Ann Summers and things like that, the most popular flavour of edible underwear is cherry. Guess what the least popular flavour is?
Coca-Cola.
Ned, any guesses?
Cyanide.
Lemon.
That would make sense, but the least flavour is actually chocolate, which surprised me. So there you go.
I can't think of a single situation that isn't improved by chocolate, including what I'm probably not allowed to mention live on radio.
Let's not.
Let's move swiftly.
Chocolate
on.
releases endorphins.
Yeah.
Yeah, chocolate is like a natural aphrodisiac, but
Yeah.
apparently cherries are where it's at, apparently.
To be fair, I do love cherry-flavoured things. Like every time there's a chewing gum or a drink or something, cherry is always my go-to flavour.
When was the last time either of you ate a real cherry?
Ages
Dead
ago.
years, decades.
I don't even think I have ever.
yeah, gee.
No, I used to eat them when I was
a
a kid, and I always liked the flavour. It was just that it's like anything, like lemon-flavoured sweets or stuff, because they're so packed with sugar, they don't taste anything like real. There's a different kind of flavour for like cherry-flavoured sweets.
We
or
say
drinks.
it's cherry flavored, but really it's its own unique brand that just got called cherry.
Yeah,
for
it's something that
no
we've
good
learned
reason.
through generations to associate with cherry via the flavour.
Oh, I've got another fact as well, talking about sweating hippos, being frustrated and angry and things. Did you know that banging your head against a wall will burn 150 calories an hour, apparently. I read that the other day. So if you just bang your head with frustration against a wall for an hour, it burns 150 calories.
There you
Although
go.
I imagine you would pass out before you reach the hour.
I don't
But there
know.
you go.
I'm still struggling to lose weight, and I definitely bang my head against a wall for more than an hour a day. So
Maybe you're suffering from the counter problem to that, though, which is what I've heard is that whenever you smack your head on something, you lose about like three or four brain cells die.
Yeah.
and also
So-
because I'm just eating loads of chocolate whilst I'm doing it. Like I eat like
That-
a chocolate bar between each headbang.
Just in frustration, just against the wall with a Twix.
Tears everywhere, red because you're sad.
It's just red and brown. It's chocolate flavoured, not even cherry flavoured.
Or sorry, tartan in your case. What's your fact, Ned?
Mine is a really weird one. I was trying to Google it to find out the specifics of it. I'm going to tell you what I know is true and then what I theorise on. First of all, the man who invented the frisbee died and was cremated, and in his last words to his family, asked to be turned into frisbees. He wants his body to be turned into frisbees. I'm trying to find his name. He's called something. He's called Edward Steady Ed Hedrick is his name. And he requested to be turned in. I don't know if it's happened or not. Apparently it was quite recent, so it hasn't happened yet. But it's up to the fates whether this man gets his dead corpse, turned into a fun flying disc for children.
I mean, see, now when I was a kid, I would occasionally play with dead birds because, not in a kind of rip them apart way.
What kind of childhood?
Not in a morbid sense. I loved animals, and I was like, yeah, it's a bird to play with. It didn't even occur to me it was really dead. It took my mother to go, Jai, you do realise that was a living thing that has now expired. But
Was that how you learnt about the truth of mortality?
No, there's been many instances, but that will start making me cry and be all sad. No, but is playing with that man's ash frisbee any different from playing with a dead bird?
Well, no, but they're both weird and wrong.
Yeah, but like throwing a frisbee, I imagine, is a lot more fun than throwing a dead bird. For
Well,
instance.
6-year-old me would probably agree with you. Frisbees are great.
There's a company where you can have your ashes put into a seed that is planted and then a tree grows out of you. That's beautiful and lovely way to remember someone. If this family want to remember their loved one, they go out into the garden and throw his corpse across the lawn for the dog to catch.
When I am dead, play with me. And on that note,
Oh, God.
we will be going on to another song, which is When the Going Gets Tough, the Tough Gets Going.
Chosen by our
Tune.
guest.
Classic tune.
Billy Ocean.
Enjoy.
Hello, and welcome back to No Laughing Matter. That was, I've already told you, but it was When the Going Gets Tough, the Tough Get Going by Billy Ocean.
Classic tune.
Classic tune.
What a song. We're going to be kicking back off our discussion on female comedians.
Yes, we're going to kind of talk a little bit about relatable comedy, kind of Michael McIntyre stuff when people try to relate to an audience, and what that means for female comedians in terms of when a female comic, when for example, Bethan, you have a whole bit about shaving your legs.
Yeah.
Which I don't relate to because I don't shave my legs, but I still find very, very funny. And my question for you, I suppose, is do you write for women? Do you write in order to relate to women?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, I think mostly I do generally have a female audience in mind because I think as much as sometimes, like female comedians might get sidelined, I feel like female audiences as well might not necessarily be, targeted by kind of, mainstream comics and things like that.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, Michael McIntyre is supposedly perfectly entitled to make jokes about a man draw.
Exactly.
Which, to be honest, as a man, isn't a phenomenon I've
And as a
experienced.
woman,
but-
I have a female equivalent of my woman draw, I have to say. It's just like a general junk draw that,
would
maybe just shove extra things like tampons in it or something to make it the female equivalent of the man draw.
Tampons and knitting equipment.
Yeah, all that stuff. But
Careful now.
the thing is that I do find that after a performance, I do generally get quite a lot of men who actually will come up to me at the end of a performance and they'll say, "Oh, I actually found that quite relatable."
Yeah, I remember we did
even
one
though-
gig where someone outside came up to you and said, I've never shaved my legs in my life, but I love that bit with you.
Yeah, I know. And the thing is, it's kind of like a double-edged sword because in a way I'm pleased that, I'm including people in my audience and I'm glad that everybody's having a good time. Of course I am. But at the same time, it's almost like, oh, you're relatable for a woman or like for lady things. And I feel like it should be, everything should be kind of relatable. It shouldn't matter that, you know, shaving your legs or having a period joke or anything like that, you know, it shouldn't matter if it's just specifically to one gender. It should be relatable to, you know, everybody should be able to find that funny.
Because there's this magical little thing that exists called empathy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the word of the day, people. Just
Empathy.
Oh, turning into Sesame Street.
Because I think the more that time has gone by, the more people have learned how not to be bad people. Really.
Yeah, although we are talking about this from our perspective of our lovely white middle class microcosm,
Westernized world, yes.
Exactly. And even, talking about intersectionality and everything, I'm a very unrepresentative woman in that I'm, sort of like lower middle class, white and straight. I only have a certain experience of being a woman, and I find that it's kind of problematic to have, just woman comedy and not understand that there are different kinds of like women just as much as there are different kinds of, I don't know, like gender and everything. It's very, very odd to be, just put the label of woman as a white middle class straight girl.
It's quite hilarious, isn't it, really? Because, I mean, how is one member of a group entitled to talk about everyone? If someone said, okay, we're going to meet aliens and this one human will talk for every human, we'd all be like, what? No, like, that's not going to work.
I nominate Donald Trump.
So why should one black person talk for all the black people? Why should one gay person talk for all the gay people? Why should one woman talk for all the women folk?
Yeah, I agree. I also think it says a lot that we are a radio show who talks about different comedic topics, and we have a topic entitled female comedians, but we're not going to have a topic entitled male comedians. Like, it says a lot that it's kind of, people think of it as its own spin-off genre. I mean, do you think that that's a good thing necessarily at the moment, because it's in order to raise awareness of the fact that it's happening, or do you think it's bad?
Yeah, I mean, there's two different sides of the argument, I guess. There's the one side that's, everybody, it should be inclusive. We shouldn't, separate women as a separate thing, blah, blah, blah. But there's also the argument that, by drawing like a light, by shining a light on a group that's necessarily a bit sidelined or something like that, you're emphasising it and you're bringing it into, public consciousness and everything. And obviously one day it would be lovely if we could not have to talk about women comedians as a separate thing. But if it helps to raise awareness and everything, then I think it's totally fine to put them in a separate group, as long as you're treating it fairly and you understand that it's, to kind of bring it up into the more wider light, I guess, sort of thing.
Yeah, but then by virtue of that, do you think that male comedians should exist as a separate topic?
That is a tricky question.
It is, because
it is tricky.
Currently it shouldn't.
No, I know. And that, again, I think that is just a problem of where we're at in society at the moment. That
Please, by the way, if you're sitting at home listening to this and thinking, I'm really angry as a meninist, as a men's rights activist, I think you should do an episode about male comedians. Please feel free to tweet in and tell us so that we can point at you and laugh.
Exactly, and just throw some feminist critiques your way. I'll throw you some Simone de Beauvoir quotes and just hope for the best.
I think it's difficult once you tag it as a genre, though, because genres suggest content. And so then you would have female comedians performing not female comedy, which seems very strange to me. Because, I mean, if I went and performed gay comedy, what is that? Like, what would that even entail or mean?
Yeah, it's... well, I suppose if you were to do a joke, which... I mean, you sort of have a little bit, which you're working on, about...
No, that's just my life.
It is a joke. It's still a joke. If you had to have a bit about you specifically experiencing something because of your sexuality, then I think that is completely justified. And I think that it's the same with female comedians. But I also think that... there should be no pressure for anyone to talk about them as they are. I mean, loads of female comedians just talk about non-female specific stuff, and it's
Right, we're about to move on to our next song break, but just before we do, we're going to be playing a game, which is called Terrible Jokes for Terrible People.
God, I've been dreading this.
I hate this one
Every
much.
guest that you've had on so far has had like improv experience and is really good at like making things up on the fly. I'm the one that prepares things months in advance, so this is going to be
to explain to those people who don't understand what Bethan's going on about, how this game works is we will all be giving each other a topic to write a piece of stand-up or a joke on. over the course of the next song break, and then
the clue is in the name. Terrible jokes are terrible people, so don't be expecting much.
Whatever disgusting product we end up with, you will have to listen to shortly. So for you, Bethan, I'm going to. I mean, I don't mean to offend, but I thought we'd be controversial. Why don't we give you the topic of dirt bikes to see if you can write about a manly topic?
Oh wow!
Oh my god.
Well,
Right.
Jaya, I'm going to give you the topic of knitting.
Knitting. Oh, lovely.
Okay, Ned, I'm going to give you the topic of hairspray.
Hairspray. Let's do it.
Okay,
Brilliant.
go
All
for
right,
it.
we will now leave you on Fire Coming Out of the Monkey's Head by the Gorillas. See you soon. No. Hello.
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 Welcome back to No Laughing Matter. And you won't be laughing now because this is our section, Terrible Jokes for Terrible People. We've all written a joke over the course of the last song break. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, you can be the
Okay.
sacrificial lamb.
So
that will
just like last time with my strange hip-hop related frog story, I've gone for an origin story of knitting.
Ooh, interesting.
Knitting originated thousands of years ago when a rare species of aquatic monkey was still alive. They would split their days into part 1 and part 2. In part 1, they would start their day by picking parasites out of each other's fur, and then in part 2, they would dive for rare gems in the ocean. Using the knits from day 1 and the pearls from day 2, they crafted clothing to stay warm in the winter months. For, of course, these monkeys lived in Canada. But when the humans came, they exterminated them all and took their materials. So, when you're next knitting, or wearing that jumper from Gran, remember, it was made using an appropriated art form, covered in blood. There you go. That was my strange,
Love it.
my strange origin story.
Could I
of knitting.
possibly go next just because it's all on my laptop and it's on 2% battery?
Go.
Go, go, go.
Okay, this is a poem about hairspray. Hairspray, hairspray, spray for your hair. You can't use hairspray if there's no hair there. For if you are balding or just plain old bald, you'd just spray your head, and head spray is not what it's called. If you're a punk rocker or a glamour queen or king, #feminism, hairspray is your most valuable thing. It's also the name of a popular musical, which is really bad. And the moral of the story is that there are some things that a cross-dressing Michael Ball can't save.
Brilliant.
Oh, love it. Okay, so mine's a bit more of a anecdote-y, stand-up-y thing because I'm not as witty as you people. So about dirt bikes. So I'm somebody who doesn't really like dirt. I'm a bit of a clean freak myself. So I think that dirt bikes are an extreme sport with a bit of an image problem. You know, it's the same problem that we have with things like cigarettes, you know, and that we used to glamorise, you know, smoking and everything. We're glamorising dirt by having this extreme sport with, like, you know, dirt bikes. So I had an idea. Why don't we start a sport called clean bikes? Where so punk kids and middle-aged men going through a midlife crisis just ride around a kitchen on a bike or something with Dettol and Cif cream and rubber gloves while Nirvana plays in the background.
Oh,
that was my
beautiful.
idea.
Brilliant.
Fantastic. I think that will work.
I think it would. Could be like Zumba and I don't know the next
One of those
big thing.
terrible white middle class things that everyone takes up.
Yeah, just clean biking. Love
Like
it.
some variation of yoga. Right. What do we do now?
We're continuing with our fascinating discussions.
Yes, we are. So, Bethan, how's about that being a woman? What's up with that, right?
Oh my.
God.
Ned apologises for saying anything.
Yeah, I mean,
I guess could I ask a question for you guys?
Oh, go ahead, of course.
To mix it up a bit.
by all means.
Like, what do you guys think as like a male performer when if a woman comes up on the stage and like a comedian, I don't know, what do you guys have any expectations that you apply as a man, or do you not? I'm just interested to see what you think.
I think I didn't. And then I think through just simple conditioning of it being discussed so much and being made such a big deal of, I've begun to not immediately think, okay, this person's going to talk about specifically lady issues, but it's at least made me begin to think, what are they going to talk about in a slightly different way that I think about when a male comedian comes on. And I don't want to think like that, but sort of by making such a big furore about it, I feel like it's difficult not to have some of that injected into your thinking system.
I would say that it does completely depend on who the person is and if I know them or no, if I don't know the comedian at all, when they come on, there's a slight tension, I think, because I know how most audiences react, and especially if there's older people in the audience with more kind of traditional views in comedy, I worry a little bit, and I always I feel discomfort. Like if I'm watching someone perform, and it's going really, really well, but there's one person in the audience who I can tell isn't enjoying it, I have like so much secondhand discomfort towards that, and I do have that a little bit with female comics. But I think also my general view on it has changed so much from me like going into London and doing so many gigs in London, because the London comedy circuit there are so many female comedians. I mean, people say there's not enough female comedians. There are. There just aren't
all
enough who are getting attention.
All in London.
They've all from all around the world
place.
have congregated.
Yeah.
I think it's not that there's not enough female comedians. It's just that they're not getting enough attention.
I mean,
because there are so many, and I've seen so many, and I think as I've seen more and more, I've come to just see it as another comedian, just with a difference.
What do you guys think? Because this is something that I've had quite a lot of debates about with like some of my friends and everything. What do you think about shows like Mock the Week and things like that, where they have a set amount of like people on the panel that have to be women, that they've started introducing these new kind of like
I didn't
things?
know about this.
Yeah, there's been a lot of things about, especially on the BBC with things like Mock the Week, is that they're trying to have like at least one woman comedian on every panel that they have on shows like that, or things like Would I Lie to You? So like a quota. What do you guys think of that?
Well, that seems a little bit. I object to that purely out of it's like I'm quite a PC person. I think that political correctness is a good thing and I encourage it. But at the same time, when people do things like try and force political correctness and try and like when you have a job interviews and you have the whole equal opportunities thing. I think that's not political correctness. That's people getting scared that they're going to get in trouble for not doing their job. And with female comedians being on TV shows, I would say that rather than try and force that, just like give more attention to female comedians and try and improve the way that people look at women in entertainment, and that will happen naturally.
For me, the notion of a quota like that needs to be filled is inherently quite sort of repressive, because it shows that, that's a big board of white people going, oh, make sure that, well, not necessarily white, but a board of people going, oh, make sure that all the minorities are included, so no one complains. And it's, I think by reserving spots for certain sort of different sorts of people, it's kind of just making the problem even more explicit than it already is, without actually making many steps in the way to field it. Although equally, it does give people a platform, and that is useful.
Yeah. How do you feel about it?
I'm quite in favour of it. I mean, I do think that there's obviously an idea of like, where do you draw the line? Because obviously, like as I've already said, like women comedian, that's a big bracket, and you can include like women of colour, you can include disabled women, you can include lesbians and other kind of like different categories of women, and it's like there are so many minority groups that are kind of not represented in comedy. It's a bit like, where do you draw the line? But that said, I do like the idea that they're kind of taking it seriously, and that maybe by including a quota, it's a start to getting more women's comedians on TV, and maybe that will just change how we feel about female comedians, although maybe I'm just being a bit optimistic and hoping for a change.
Optimism is where revolution comes from.
A change are common. It'll be like that.
No, I think that's a great way of looking at it.
We actually have a caller in here.
We have a caller?
Oh my God.
Oh my.
The wonderful Miss Abigail Shaw, who was on our first episode.
Abigail.
Wants
nice
to weigh
of you
in,
to drop by,
saying when they didn't have quotas and reserved spots for people of various not white male persuasions. She said that when she was watching Nevermind the Buzzcocks, that so many shows were all men that when they made a sexist joke, there was no one there to actually say, "Whoa, hang on, that's not cool."
Oh my!
Oh, that's a very good point.
That's a brilliant point.
By extracting those people from the space, it gave the others in the room a license to.
Yeah,
it's almost like you're giving
boys club.
Yeah, like a white male privileged safe space.
Because we need that.
Just a net of maleness to safety.
Protect your precious masculinity.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think that the whole issue of that is something which is, there's no straight answer to come in and just say this is how I feel. That it's something which I think needs a lot of looking at and thinking about. I do think though that the number one way to kind of medicate this issue is just to make sure that there's lots and lots of information out there which is saying to disadvantaged people and underprivileged people, in spite of your privilege, you can still do this. And then saying, here's an example of someone who has done it. You can do it as well. And that's what's gonna kind of fund the movement, rather than, like you say, a bunch of old white guys making it happen by putting certain rules in place to make so that they don't get complaints in. I don't think that's the positive way to go forward.
No. And Abby's also said that even today with the quota, you can see that these shows are still male dominated.
Hilariously male dominated.
Abby says she's seen shows where the women, even though they are there, have been almost ignored and that they are fighting to get a joke in.
Yeah, that is a real.
It's very uncomfortable.
And I mean, to be fair, even last night we did a comedy cabaret, and the Holloway Players did an improvisation sketch of which Ned was in, and there were two male voices and a female voice on stage, and the two male voices were, I don't think they were aware of it, but they were being incredibly dominant, and Jenny was trying to make points and things like that.
I do know
Definitely.
exactly what you're talking about there, and it was. That's maybe, I think, a different sort of environment. I think with the environment that you get on these TV shows a lot is, like I say, it creates like a boys' club thing. It creates a big kind of culture of, the lads down the pub kind of vibe is there.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is not a friendly environment for other people.
I think on the flip side as well, as women, you're kind of raised with this kind of attitude of, you wait your turn, you be polite and all that sort of thing. And that's just something that we've got to get over. Get over ourselves.
Screw that.
Screw the patriarchy. Get your voices heard, women, everything, and all that stuff. Preach.
Yeah, and actually, it's an important thing to discuss while we're on the topic. Abby's also bringing up potentially non-sort of or semi-comedy panel shows for things like A Question of Sport and things like that, which are obviously already.
I haven't seen this, but what's
A Question of Sport is basically it's a sports sort of panel quiz show thing.
Okay.
But obviously, it's got lots of banter and comedy and things like that. The host is actually a female.
Yeah, I was going to say the host is a woman,
do
but
you know who that is?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't know myself.
I can't remember
I just
her
know
name,
that she's a woman. That's terrible of me.
I'm just making the point that because she's there every week, that makes all the other panelists men. Anyway, we've only got 20 seconds left, so thank you very much for listening, but we'll be signing off now.
Thank you.
Been Jaya Baldwin.
Yeah, and Bethan, thank you so much for coming and joining us.
Thank you for having me, guys. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
It's been wonderful. We have been No Laughing Matter. Stay happy and smiling.
Indeed.
We're going to leave you with a gorgeous song by Jonathan Coulton, one of my favourite musical comedians, called Your Brains.
Goodbye.
Bye.